So, if you're coming to this meeting or watching the replay of this call, then you will know that the meat of this call is basically about emotional eating and the disordered patterns that you might find yourself falling into a trap of. And actually, what inspired it was a situation in which Tony experienced going through the gut protocol. Hold on, I'm going to try to see something if I can do it. They'll let me do it. Am I frozen?
Yeah, you just froze. There you go. You're not.
Okay. How do I? Okay. I have no idea. There we go. The view of this screen is goofy. I'll show you sometime. But when Tony originally started with the gut protocol, I gave her a little challenge. I challenged her to go through the gut protocol doing only what the gut protocol says to do. So anytime you commit to a fitness or a health goal, I don't believe in the concept of being perfect because perfect isn't sustainable, right? It's impossible. But the gut protocol has very specific food lists in which you're supposed to stick to, right, Tony?
Yeah.
Am I right? Okay, so it has very specific foods that in like different categories, like fats, carbs, things that you should stick to, because the goal of the program is that it uses food to heal your gut from the inside out, thus reducing inflammation and just making everything else work all together better. So Tony would inherently have had great success, even if she had followed the gut protocol to the T and had maybe I call it, well, we're used to calling it a slip up, but I hate calling it a slip up because why are we conditioned to think that we have to be perfect in our nutrition in some way? So that's what has really led me to this. When in the beginning, I asked Tony, I said, what is your goal with the gut protocol? Her goal was, I want to do the program 100% the way that was designed. I want to only eat the foods that are on the gut protocol. And as soon as she expressed that, I was going to hold her accountable to that. And something that I had noticed with Tony, and I noticed with a lot of people when they commit to a goal in the beginning, is they'll make this great meal plan, or they'll have this, I'm going to work out 3 days this week and I'm going to eat this. I'm only going to eat this and I'm going to stop eating this and I'm going to stop eating that. So they make these little mini promises of things that they're going to, they're going to change. And in your mind, I'm going to do it. And then all these little situations pop up. And I have, even with my own self, I've noticed myself do it in my own journey, in the beginning to go from morbidly obese to where I am now. And even now, I still struggle with it. Is that life happens. And guess what? When life starts happening, what do we want to do? We want to edit the plan that we're on. So then what ends up happening is we edit the original plan and replace it with a new plan. And that new plan, we'll edit that plan and replace it with a new plan. And then eventually we have fallen so far away from the original plan that we have to now have no idea in what iota what we're doing. And we're lost. And then it's like this continual circle in which you actually end up feeling shameful at the end, or you're not feeling proud of yourself. You're not feeling proud of your effort. So when I said to Tony, I said, this is going to be an aggressive goal for yourself. I said to follow. I said, but at the end of it, you know what you're going to have. She said, what's that? I said, by following the program the way that it's designed and following through on your commitments, you're not going to have a weight loss success. I mean, yes, that'll be a byproduct, but you're going to have something so much more deeper than that. You are going to prove to yourself that you can follow a plan. You'll end that program feeling a lot prouder about your effort. You will end feeling convinced that you've overcome all these little things that have popped up that have caused you to edit the plan. So Tony was rocking and moving and grooving, and then she finally had a situation, which inspired this call, in which she said, I ate Burger King. She was really upset about it. And we had a really honest moment in which I said to her, you might as well go in the bathroom and flush down the toilet all of the money that you keep wasting, because all of the work that you're putting in and all of the money that you're spending to try to have success is going down the drain when you're throwing it all away. And I know that that really hurt, but that was an honest conversation I had to have with myself, because when we start out on a journey of health, it has the original goal and purpose is to lose weight, but it's so much deeper than that. It absolutely has to do with our habits. And I know for myself, I'm an emotional eater. I'm a stress eater. And I'll always be an addict that's in recovery. Am I still an addict? Can I fall into addictive tendencies? Absolutely. Did I fall into an addiction with, an addictive drug in the past? Absolutely. But we can very much trade our addictions for another addiction. Inherently, the reason why addicts become addicted to their vices is because it's a form of release. So when things are happening in our lives that are really stressful, that are really out of our control, I know for myself, I have, you stuff it down, all these things that are happening, you stuff down your feelings because you're a mom. You have to be strong. You have to be the one that keeps it and holds it all together. You don't want to bother anyone with how you feel. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to write about it. You don't want to reach out to anybody because you don't want to disturb their peace. And then all this bad stuff that keeps happening to us, we stuff down, we stuff down, we stuff down, we stuff down. And I did this little demonstration with Tony, in which I said, you know what happens? You then end up spinning out of control to the point like you stuff things down so much that you automatically, that's it. I need a release. And in that moment, that day that Tony had her slip up with Burger King, she was having a really awful day with some of, personal things going on in her life. And, she was having a very difficult day with her daughter and her behavior. She was just having a really difficult day. Not only was she just having a really difficult day, but she's been having a really difficult few months and stuffing all that stuff down. She'll talk a little bit about it, but she won't talk all the way about it. Or certain things would make her feel badly that were happening to, we have a tendency to think that, why is this bad thing happening to me? And you feel really badly about these things that are happening to you, and you're going through it, and you begin to take on that victim mentality. And when you're a victim, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to feel good. You want to feel safe. Food does that. For me, that's always been food. So something that has greatly helped me, and this is something that when I have been recovering from my eating disorder, there's still parts of my eating disorder that I'm working on. And that's okay, because I'm not going to solve an eating disorder that I've had since the age of 14 in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years. I might have to take it on in layers. Okay. And the one thing that has tremendously helped me is that in these moments where I'm like, that's it. I don't care. I know I'm in a program. I just don't give a rat's ass. I'm going to do whatever I want and eat whatever I want because I've had a bad day. what has tremendously helped me, and it doesn't always help, is practicing the pause. I really force myself to adopt and live this mantra day in and day out in my life, because it's the one thing I have control of. I can't control what's happening to me. I can't control who's being mean to me. I can't control that my job does it, that's putting me on an unpaid leave because I have a medical condition that they don't like. I can't control what was said to me. I can't control the bad things that my child's going through. I can't control my child's pain. I can't control my spouse's pain. I can't control any of these bad things going on around me. But you know what I can control? I can control my pause. And in that moment of pause, I go through a self-reflection. So when I find myself running to my vice, and I know what my vice is, and that's the first step, is knowing what your vice is. When you feel stressed, when you feel unhappy, when you feel anxious, when you feel bad, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel defeated, when you feel like your back is against the wall, when you feel like you can't take one more thing going wrong, that's when this matters the most, because that's where the self-sabotaging tendencies come in, because we want to survive and we want to feel good. And our survival mechanism that we have used for so long has been destroying ourselves. Don't beat yourself up. It's okay. The whole world has went through went through a phase in which they have experienced tremendous self-sabotage. And I don't think all of us have, we all self-sabotage in a different way. So for me, when I notice that I'm starting to feel all these things, and I feel like I'm a pot that's like a tea kettle that's getting ready to blow its top, I pause and I ask myself, am I happy? Am I feeling bad? Am I stressed out? Am I angry? Am I thirsty? Am I dehydrated? Have I eaten enough food today? Because sometimes my moments where I'm like, when I'm really stressed, I don't want to eat. I know that Tony's went through that, and probably a lot of the people that come to me for help probably suffer with this, that when they are under an immense amount of stress, they either go from one end of extreme to the other. We're either under so much stress we can't even think about eating, or we're under so much stress it's fuck it, I don't care, I don't care about anything, I just want to feel good. Those are the tendencies we have to learn how to throw away. You throw them away. So if your answer is yes, I'm stressed, yes, I'm overwhelmed, yes, I'm unhappy, yes, I'm angry, yes, I'm overwhelmed, and I can't take another thing going wrong, that is your moment to think of what can I do right now instead of what the destructive me wants to do. So when me and Tony were having this conversation, a mutual friend of ours, which I'm sure you know, Alana, she had a very destructive relationship prior to the relationship she's in now. And she used to get very, very stressed out because her significant other would just go missing on days on end, and she couldn't contact them. And, there she was. I have no idea if my significant other is alive or dead. I don't know what's going on. And her first outlet was, okay, I'm going to call a friend. So she would call me. Back then we boxed her. She would box me. I'm going to kill such and such. And then it would be this whole long boxer. And then I'd call her. Sometimes me and her would talk for 2 hours at a time, just because she was in that bad of a state that she just needed somebody to hear her pain. And I just sat there and listened. And then at the end of that, she'd say, you know what? I'm getting off here. I'm going to the woods. The first time she ever said it to me, I said, you're going to the woods? Now, me and Alana became friends in the very beginning of my journey. So Alana's actually the one that that actually helped me learn better outlets for my stress versus using food and purging and binging as my solution to control the uncontrollable. I said, well, what do you mean you're going to the woods? Who goes to the woods? What are you going to the woods for? She was like, I'm going to the woods and I'm going to reconnect. I had no idea what that meant. She called me back within, I'd say about 2 hours, 3 hours, and she was like she was a happy little butterfly. Did so I said, did so and so come back home? Nope. Has he contacted you? Nope. But I feel great. What the hell what's your secret? She would go out, she had 3 different ways she would release. First way was phone a friend and vent. Second way was, all right, I'm gonna go connect with nature and I'm just gonna go for a walk. Her third way was when that didn't feel like she was fully released, she was very good at meditating and yoga, and she's very much into yoga. So she'd just go into nature and she would just sit there and meditate. And at the end of it, she was fine. She wasn't completely fine, but she was a whole heck of a lot better fine than she was 4 hours prior to when she was like, ah. So for us, the biggest challenge is figuring out what our release is going to be, what I can do instead of. For myself, when I find that I'm really stressed, it's because I'm not telling people, how I'm feeling. And I know Tony struggles with that too, to tell people honestly, hey, you're making me mad. Hey, you're making me upset. I struggle with telling people my feelings sometimes too. I've gotten a lot better at it. And I've gotten a lot better at it because I realize that the more I trap my feelings in, the more I position myself to be in a place of becoming a teapot boiling over. So I spoke a lot. So I want to leave it open for anything you guys want to talk about that maybe you might be going through. See if I can answer anything. Tony, you said you had a bad day with Barb, right?
Oh yeah, she had a shit fest.
Okay. Did you experience any emotions during that?
Yeah,
Strong emotions?
yeah. Like I wanted to
And
give up.
you wanted to give up, right?
Yeah.
So what did you do instead of giving up in the middle of those feelings?
Well, I messaged Alana and I also messaged Angela at the same time. So
That's good.
Alana was like, got this. Just take a
That's
deep breath and then go back in a couple minutes. And then she was fine.
and that's good because you're for me in the beginning, I had no idea what made me feel good because for so long, so many things made me feel bad. I could give you a laundry list of what made me feel really bad, but I could give you a really tiny list of what made me feel good. Until I started, so what helped me in the beginning, I started carrying around like this little tiny notebook. Tony, I don't know if you remember me running around with it. And I had it titled, How to Make Me Happy Again.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I noticed that something made me feel good, I'd pull out this notebook or my phone in the notes section. I just jot it down. It was stupid things. Like when I noticed that the sunlight made me feel good, I wrote it down. Sunlight. When my kids were laughing and having a fun time, and I noticed that that made me feel good, I wrote that down. When I noticed that I was walking the dog one night and I loved the smell of a bonfire and that made me feel good, I wrote it down. I began filling this notebook with things that made me feel good. And those things became the things I could lean into and count on more than my bad vices. Did I always lean into them? No. And you're not always going to. In those moments that you don't win the war, you're not supposed to. because there's something in that lesson. And Tony was really beating herself up. She, oh, I messed up. I ate the Burger King, and I said, Tony, it's okay. You learned something extremely important in the middle of that challenge. You learned that you're a stress eater, and up until that point, Tony had been going so much and editing the plan. She never had the chance to really discover, oh my God, I'm a stress eater. But you don't have to carry that title. Just knowing that that's what you're struggling with becomes the monster that you are going to defeat. I promise you. It might feel like right now, because I had named it. It might sound crazy, but when I used to journal through my eating disorder, I actually named my eating disorder. I had a name for it because it was like, to me, it was my monster. It was my demon that I felt like was just hovering over me that I was never going to get rid of. And I remember at one point hating myself because I knew when I was binging on the food that the purge was coming. And I used to beat myself up so badly, thinking to myself, why can't I just get it together? Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just stop? Mommy. And I really put myself down then. It's okay. And that was when I was going through that. I was actually going through that when I was pregnant with Kyle. I was gaining weight with Kyle, and, there was at times when I was pregnant with Kyle that I contemplated purging my food just to keep my weight down so that the doctor didn't say anything more about my weight. These are all the disordered things that we have to be aware of. And it's okay. Once you start to become aware of, don't let it become the sadness. Let it become the, okay, I know that this is my demon to conquer. And I accept that this is going to be a challenge, but I'm here for it. And brick by brick, I'm going to beat this demon. When I met Tony 6 years ago, she was spending almost $400 to $500 a month on fast food. Fast food. She was eating it almost every friggin' day of the week. I couldn't for the life of me, after she did her first challenge. I'm like, man, she killed it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm like, saying all right things, doing all right things. And finally, I asked her, I said, I can't figure this out. What's going on here? I asked her to go in her bank account and tell me how much she mindlessly spent. And I think she gave me in the past like 3 months, and I think she gave me this massive amount of like $800 some odd dollars. I don't remember. I said, okay, where was it to? Wendy's. Wait, what? Wendy's? And then that's when I realized and she really struggled. She'll tell you this. It took her almost 3 years. And each year she eats fast food less and less and less. And that was the same with me. I struggled with a fast food and a soda addiction when I very first came into deciding that I was going to become a healthier version of me, not just on the outside, but on the inside, and how I responded to stress and just how I did things on a day-to-day basis. And I would eat fast food because I'm a nursing assistant. And as a nursing assistant, you know, Tony will tell you, I'm the kind of aide where I won't take my break. If it means one of my patients might not get a shower because I have to take a break, I will sacrifice my break so that that patient can take a shower. And then I would end my shifts ravenously hungry. Where do you think I was hitting up at 11:30 at night? I was going right to the McDonald's line because they were open 24 hours. I could live off that dollar menu happily because I was a poor person then too. So I ate fast food almost 5 days a week. And it was really hard for me in the beginning. And I finally have gotten myself down to I only eat fast food. Like you'd ask my kids, I eat it 3 times a year. I give myself permission to eat fast food, something maybe from Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, those kinds of places, at least 3 times a year. And that's because that was so ingrained at me at one point. That was my vice. That was my escape route. That was my easy way to to solve a problem that took hard work, and it's going to take time. So, Cheryl, how's life been for you? Hold on.
Let's my
So it how's it been?
It's
How
been
you been going?
crazy. What? Well, so yesterday my cat like jumped on the table and like hit one of my daughter's keys on her computer, on her Mac computer, and like broke it, right? So that started a big thing yesterday because we could have gotten an appointment to get it fixed yesterday, but my husband didn't want to take her. And then today, like I made an appointment at like this, I don't know, Apple gave me some like independent real person to fix it or whatever. We go there this morning to try to get it fixed. The guy totally wants to take advantage of us. Because when she first got her computer, my son went through like a rage and like literally smashed it with a hammer. So, and she had just gotten it. So we took it to Apple. Apple repaired it for less than this guy wants to replace for one key. He says they can't just replace one key. So I call Apple back today and I'm like, hey, you sent me to this place. I said this guy is totally taking advantage of us. And and they're like, well, we can replace just a key. I'm like, well, this guy said he couldn't replace just a key. And so now I have like another appointment for Wednesday, which just like aggravates me because like now we're doing the whole same thing all over again that we could have just had fixed today. Um, and then like Wednesday is just like such a bad day for me because I have an endocrinologist appointment. I have to go for blood work tomorrow. I've been in and out of doctors. Like literally, my arm looks like I can't even tell you what it looks like. I don't even know how they're gonna get blood tomorrow with all the bruises that I had. So it's just really frustrating. And then like now with my gallbladder surgery that I had out, like I can't eat the foods that made me happy. So like I'm really struggling with that because like I'll see them in the cabinet because obviously I have them for the kids. My daughter's been a lot better. Like she's trying to lose weight too. So like it's really helpful that she's trying to do it with me. Um, but just knowing that I can't eat those foods that made me happy, like makes me believe like I'll never find happiness again. And I know it's stupid, but like that's where my head's been ever since I've had my gallbladder surgery. Like I don't know, I ordered something in the hospital after my like the next day after my surgery and they were like, "Oh, you can't have that. You're on a low fat diet." I'm like, "What?" And I can't even remember what exactly. Oh, it was like cheese. It was American cheese for my sandwich. And they were like, "Oh, you can't have that because you're on a low fat diet. You have to have mozzarella or Swiss." Both of which I don't like on a sandwich. So it's like now I have to find things that I'm gonna like again to keep the low fat diet so I don't have stones pop up or like gallbladder attacks that well, I don't have a gallbladder anymore, but like just attacks that are gonna make me feel miserable. And it's like so frustrating. It really is.
I you've been through a lot. And I think in the middle of you going through a lot, you haven't even been able to have a moment where you feel like you can pause because it's always one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. So when does Cheryl get the rest? Is there ever a time during the day that you actually get to have downtime for you?
Well, I mean, there is when my son's in school, and that's another thing. Like the day he came home from the hospital, my son ran away, and I couldn't chase him because I'm not even supposed to be like walking long distances and stuff like that. So like that just added to it. So I had to call the police. The police had to get involved. But like I have time to myself when he's in school.
Is there anything else that you really um like to do?
I like to read. I've been reading Pauline Hoover books. I think I'm on my like sixth book of hers right now. So that's pretty much what I do. Not all day, but like that's what I do to like try to relax is I'll just pick up a book and read it.
Well, I mean, I think that's wonderful that you even know that reading relaxes you, because it took me forever to realize that I like to read. Because I was the very much like the podcast person, but then when I did 75 hard, I'm like, oh man, I was like,
Yeah,
oh, I completed a book and I actually like to read.
I like to read, but no, I should say I like the book to be read to me, but I have to follow along with the book.
Right. This helps you connect with it better.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the middle of what feels like a possible battle, I know you probably feel like you're not doing well, but I think you are doing well, because in the middle of all this adversity, your heart still is in the right place to move in the right direction. And there are a lot of people right now that think that, but they don't get on board with it. But here you are, and you are a success, because I guarantee you, you even just fighting your battle, I'm probably willing to say that it inspired your daughter to get better for her own self. So you know what you're doing? You're going to break a generational curse with your eating disorder, and your daughter's not going to grow up having to fight the demon, because you decided at this stage in your life that I don't care what comes at me. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do whatever I had to do. It was terrible that your son ran away, but in the middle of that awful thing happening, you knew exactly what to do. You knew exactly where to get the help. And it's something like really awful like that. It's really easy for a person to shut down mentally, but under a very scary situation, you were able to methodically, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and I got to do this. So whatever happened after that, forgive yourself for. Because in that moment, getting your son back home was the most important damn thing in that day, and you succeeded. And I think that that's where a lot like of my self-love came back, and where I started kind of shedding some of my disordered eating patterns, is because I forced myself to like start seeing, you know what, today was hard, but I achieved doing the one hard thing really well. You're not a failure. Whatever happened after that, even if you ate like shit and you had a moment where you relapsed in your eating disorder, or you binged and purged, you didn't fail. You're still in the process of unlearning all of these ways that you have learned for so long to cope. And it's okay, because like we all kind of came up in a time when the weight loss industry was very ass backwards. And there's a lot of unlearning that like all of us have to do in our mind. And food's everywhere. It's on TV. It's everywhere you drive. It's in your face. And you know, they don't put healthy stuff in your face. Like just like when we were at the Wawa, I'm like, salad. The only protein option you're giving me is fried chicken.
I know, right?
So I'm like,
grilled.
Emma had the greatest idea ever. She goes, Mommy, why hasn't anybody ever made up a healthy buffet? Like where you could walk in and it's a healthy buffet of all healthy food. I'm like, oh, I don't know, Emma. Nobody's ever invented it yet because you're supposed to. Okay. So, you know, it's it's not all our fault. You know, what we're fighting against is not all our fault. And it's going to be a challenge. And it's okay for you to say, you know what, today was just really challenging. What was one of your wins today, Tony?
Uh, I was under my caffeine limit.
Well, that's a freaking success because you definitely over caffeinated before this. What was
Oh,
your
I
win?
know.
What was your win today, Cheryl? Just one.
Um,
Doesn't
I
even have to
actually
be food.
no, it's not. I did cook a good dinner, but I actually let my son outside to play, and he actually played with one of these other kids, actually nicely, and it was a pleasure to like watch him be able to connect with somebody else.
So you discovered that you also that's something that makes you happy too, seeing your son thrive and be able to connect. So that's one to always remember too. Maybe in the middle of difficult time, I don't know how you would be able to integrate that, but it's always something to keep in the back of your mind, that to remember when the difficult thing comes up with the moment with your son, to remember this is just a moment, this is not forever. There was a moment that was a great moment, and I have hope that I'm going to experience more of those. So my win today is I didn't eat sugar,
Me
and I'm
either.
eating and I'm eating less and less and less and less and less of it. I've been on a sugar battle, let me tell you, for far too long. And I have I think, somebody once said you finally get sick and tired of being sick and tired of something that you're like, all right. I finally got sick and tired of craving sugar at 10 o'clock at night and wanting to eat the whole house down. And I'm like, I got to do something about this. So, I mean, I've been challenging myself to eat less sugar, little bit by bit by bit, bit by bit. So, the call's getting ready to end. So, I want to end in a short prayer. Okay. Father, we come to you and we just thank you for giving us the opportunity to connect with one another. And we're just asking that you revive our spirits, that you revive our minds. And anybody that is watching this call, we just ask that you fill them with hope. And you just show them the way through, show them, let them know that you are there, and go before each and every one of us and just make the solution. And in the middle of adversity, always allow us to see the way out and see the solution, and help us flee from our destructive ways. And Father, we just thank you for being a forgiving Father, and we just ask that you forgive us for any of our trespasses